Good afternoon, GRCC family. It's good to share some time with you today on this edition of Coffee and Conversation. I have a few little updates to give toward the end of this, but what I wanted for today was to have this Coffee and Conversation be one that is sharing information with you more specific around our student supports. Some of the things that we have been doing here recently and in the last, my goodness, the last 12 months, and probably with what you hear today, there's some things we've been doing for a whole lot longer than that. But supports that we've been doing and some things that we've been engaged in to help our students, especially given COVID-19 and this pandemic, and how we as an institution, as a campus, have had some outreach to our students and what some of those supports look and sound like. As always, if you have questions related to Coffee and Conversation, whether it be the topics that we're talking about today, if you have other questions, that's what the chat feature is for. And please put those in the chat. We'll try to get to questions as well. Today I have with me several folks who will help us in digging into this whole notion of student supports. The two main people I'll introduce, Dr. Tina Hoxie and Dr. Kathy Mullins, and I'm going to let them introduce some of the folks who are going to assist them today in their information sharing. But first of all, in talking about student support from our side of student life and some of the things that we've been doing there, I've asked, as I said, and I told you last month, I wanted Dr. Hoxie to talk a bit about what she and her team have been doing, how that work has looked. You'll hear from some folks from her area and sharing what that looks like and some things going forward as to what that focus will be. And then I'll introduce Dr. Mullins as well from the GRCC Foundation side and some of the funds that are utilized over on that side of the campus, that side of the institution, in reaching out and helping our students. So I think that's a full deal today, and I'd rather hear them talk than me. So I'm going to give it over to Dr. Hoxie and let her and her folks share some information with you this afternoon.
Thank you, President Pink. Certainly, it's a great opportunity to have a chance to share how things have changed, what are the new ways of operating, of what we've adjusted to as a result of the COVID. In highlighting some things today, certainly there is no way that I could begin to cover all of the changes and cross-college cooperative efforts, joint efforts that have happened between faculty, staff, and students to make sure we're being successful in supporting our students and listening and caring for them and fulfilling their needs that they have to continue and be successful at GRCC. You know, I refer to the COVID, and again, we've never shut down. I think it's important to say that. Certainly there were a couple weeks that we couldn't be on campus at all because of state regulations, but we've been available remotely by appointment here on campus, and that's been great work that I think it's important to continue to celebrate all those efforts that are happening. I term it as evolving change that's been layered with an accelerated speed that we've made these adjustments for. So today I'm going to, just as a snapshot to cover, we're going to hear from David DeBoer, our new financial aid director. We're going to hear from Lina Blair and talk about some services in their areas. But there's many others that also have contributed in the SSR division and our academic departments that make all this work successful. Class is going to, if you could pull up our slides we want to share with you today. We have a combination on the very next slide here, just to give you a little bit of a data. One of the things I want you to walk away with today is to get a sense of what is different, because some of these changes that we've been creative about and innovative about, these are things that will continue. So right out of the gate, we merged our switchboard with our call center. And in doing that, one of the things we didn't want to do is we didn't want students to get caught up being transferred or not feeling like they were getting immediate attention, especially in light of how things were changing so rapidly for them. And you'll see in terms of phone calls, by merging those, we had a 32% in calls. The other thing is students got triaged from the very beginning, meaning that when the call came in, we used Google Docs. I never knew that Google Docs would become so important, but it's about putting a student there. And if they needed even further follow-up and support, we had that particular service or that particular office call that student back of where it worked for them. Certainly being efficient, being convenient, being able to connect with students at the time when they could connect with us became a priority for us. So the call center feature is something we'll continue. The staff working together they've done a fantastic job with that. Another piece is around enrollment specialist appointments. We always had those, but I'll tell you, we have learned that students actually at the start of the pandemic and even now don't always want to come down for an appointment. Instead, what fits best in their schedule is to schedule something with a specialist appointment. And you can see that we have a 46.6% increase in those as well. We've also taken a look at our service hours, expanding those to be longer, and also have added them on Saturdays, as well as looking at appointments in Spanish. Again, it's about understanding the needs of our students and how can we best meet those needs for those students. So that's just a little backdrop of the intake as students are contacting the college and want to get started here at GRCC, and all of those pieces will continue. We, through the help of ClassQuant, who's an amazing, and his team of people, we've also added many, many virtual programs. And to our surprise, we didn't have as much interest early on as we thought we would. I think that interest is growing. I think our skills, our ability to make them better has also been improving. We've not been able to get into the high schools like we normally would, and it's challenging to reach our adult students. So again, we're always looking for new ways to do that. So in the next slide, I want to highlight one of the pieces that also is very important for our students is how is it that they're going to finance college? Or the other piece is, as their lives have changed as a result of job loss or a variety of circumstances, that has certainly major impacts on our students. So we ramped up everything in our financial aid area. You're going to hear a little bit more about some special state programs that I want everybody to know the nuances and ins and outs of those, and David DeBoer is going to cover those in a minute. But one thing that we learned in our FAFSA is, it can be a barrier for our students. So right away we set up financial aid appointments, remote, in person, and you can see there 178% increase since we started with the pandemic to now of how that's running. Definitely students want to connect with financial aid, still doing the triaging, still doing the programs, helping students through the FAFSA. Again, one of our guiding principles is how can we reduce these barriers for students? We all know enrollment has been on the decline here at GRCC since this has hit, and that's also true nationally. So again, it's about how do we keep things moving through the funnel, keep students engaged, those that have started with us new, those that have already been with us in terms of continuing and retaining them, and certainly our academic advising area has done a fantastic job in that area, but having them also keep moving towards completion. Very, very important. We're leveraging all the technologies that we have. We also have customized and personalized, in terms of setting up emails, here for you, GRCC Cares, Frontliners, even received an award you may have seen on GRCC Today in our communications area about the gap year on that campaign that we did. We're telling our story and we're out there and doing that all the time. So those are two areas of the intake around our admission piece, recruitment, our prospective students, and then that backdrop of that financial picture for students, which is even more important for them right now. A third piece I'm going to quickly just mention has been our health and safety. Never in my wildest imagination as a dean did I think that I would do health screening on a regular basis every day, 7 days a week, every hour of the day. But one of the pieces I'm extremely proud of is our college has put support in that, and we've hired 3 of our faculty nurses that have done an exceptional job around students doing their questionnaire, whether they're on campus or even if they're totally off campus. And they receive a call from us within the day. So as faculty send on messages that student may have been exposed or student may have COVID, it's the ability to talk with them and help them and understand what resources do they need to be successful. This is a good segue to turn over to Lina Blair, because one of those things that the nurses do and our office does when we talk with students that are being challenged around the COVID circumstance is we would be referring them to other resources. And Lina's going to talk about some of those resources now.
Thanks, Tina. So speaking of barrier removal and helping students kind of overcome some obstacles, we participated in the Hope Center survey in 2016 and again in 2020. And you can see from the data that for the most part, students' basic needs and securities, particularly housing and insecurity and homelessness, have remained pretty close to the same. A highlight, though, is in 2016, 45% of the students who responded to this survey said that they had experienced food insecurity in the past 30 days, whereas this past year, 29% of our students who participated in that survey said that they had experienced food insecurity in the past 30 days. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the food pantry and all of the work that College Action Project 3.3 has done to address student basic needs and securities and remove the barriers of food insecurity, housing insecurity, emergency funding, those kinds of things. So moving forward, we have the Get Help program has been one of the main pieces of this College Action Project. And so we put together this website pre-COVID, actually, grcc.edu/gethelp. The on-campus services that are and resources that are offered on that page include the food pantry, emergency funding, the one-on-one support that students can get if they are dealing with any kind of basic need and security. And really what that looks like on a day-to-day basis is a couple of us here on campus just when a student says they have a basic need and security, like they may lose their housing or they can't pay a utility bill, one of us just rolls up our sleeves and helps the student identify resources both on campus and off campus, and tries to make those connections with them so that they're not flying solo when they're in a crisis kind of a situation. And that Get Help page also includes mental health resources for our students on campus and off campus. Some off-campus resources that we offer as well, we can help students get connected to 211, medical, dental, and vision resources, SNAP benefits, other food pantries in the area that have sprung up throughout COVID, that kind of thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the partnership between IT, the library, and our College Action Project with the laptop and Wi-Fi hotspots have been, that's been an amazing opportunity for our students to get connected to technology in a time where technology really makes a difference. So some data about the food pantry and emergency funding. A typical year pre-COVID for the food pantry, we averaged about 250 visits for the whole academic year. You can see in 2019 and 2020, that academic year, we had a total of about 600 visits. We were on par pre-COVID with our normal average, and then COVID hit and we really sprung into action. We were on campus every week, even when, that first week of March 16th, when everything closed down, we were here distributing food to students. With the help of some grants, the GRCC Foundation, Student Alliance, which is our student government, the funding, we were able to get more funding and really support students with food insecurity. And this year so far, as of Monday, we've had 1,751 visits to the food pantry, and they're getting probably 3 times more food than they got pre-COVID. So that's been a real amazing resource for our students. And then on the emergency funding side of things, which is managed by Student Success and Retention, Eric Mullen and Sandy Gregory, pre-COVID, our average numbers were about 30 to 35 applications a year. As you can see, those grant and loan applications have gone up substantially, and we've been able to help nearly 90 students, more than 90 students so far this year as of Monday. So that's been a great resource for our students when they're struggling in a time of need. In the next slide, we get to talk a little bit about building community with our students and getting creative. So as you know, I'm the Director of Student Life and Conduct, and a lot of our office responsibilities involve getting students connected to each other outside of the classroom, and often partnering with faculty as well for inside the classroom opportunities as well. So I just wanted to highlight a couple things that our student organizations have done this year. Student Alliance has changed a little bit about the way they run a meeting, and have really focused on building relationships among students in a way that they didn't need to before, because we have less students kind of milling around here in student life. And then they've also shifted to virtual meetings. They've figured out how to run voting virtually, and plan to continue that in the future, which was a piece of feedback that several student organization leaders had given us prior to COVID. Campus Activities Board, an example of a great event they put on this year was a virtual painting night where they mailed out canvases and painting supplies to students, and then all painted together on Zoom. The chess club has more than 40 students active currently, and they competed against Boston College in a virtual event, virtual competition a couple weeks ago, and are really pursuing the ability to compete virtually in the future. The gardening club has figured out a way to safely distance from each other, but still plant a garden to support the student food pantry this year. Phi Theta Kappa hosted a regional conference. They were originally scheduled to host that in person on campus last spring, and they shifted to a virtual model, and that they've been asked to do that again for this year. The leadership banquet, another great example. We had that last Friday. The biology faculty all got together on a Zoom call and presented their biology department awards to students. And it was a surprise. They recorded that while that was happening, and that's what was included in the banquet. So another creative opportunity there. And finally, Grad Fest. We hosted that last year. It was a socially distanced celebration. We had 235 students participate in that yesterday, and are happy to have been able to celebrate with them and get them pumped up about commencement that's coming up at the end of April. So all things said and done, we've learned a ton in the past year, and I think that there's some opportunity to keep some things that we've done in the last year to increase access to students and allow them to build community in a way that's accessible and for our student demographic. You know, if we have non-traditional students or students who are parents and have tight schedules, there are opportunities now that didn't exist before for students to get connected to each other and feel like a part of this campus. I appreciate the time today. Next up is David DeBoer, who's the Executive Director of Financial Aid.
Thank you, Lena, and thank you all for the opportunity to talk to you today about some new initiatives within the financial aid area. First of all, I want to talk about Futures for Frontliners. So in 2020, the state introduced this new scholarship program called Futures for Frontliners, and it's part of Governor Whitmer's 60 by 30 initiative. And the 60 by 30 initiative aims to make sure that 60% of Michigan adults have a college credential by the year 2030. And Futures for Frontliners is the leading edge of that initiative. So what is Futures for Frontliners? It's a last dollar scholarship program for community college students. It covers resident rate tuition and mandatory fees after a Pell Grant is applied if a student is eligible for a Pell Grant. And it's for frontliners who do not yet have a college degree and who worked in essential industries in this period of April through June of 2020. So statewide, over 120,000 people submitted applications for consideration of the program prior to the December 31 deadline. Out of that 120,000, more than 10,600 frontliners applied with the intent to attend GRCC. 54% of those students met all of the eligibility requirements based on the state criteria. Out of that group then, over 1,700 students attended GRCC for the winter semester, which was the first semester that the Futures for Frontliners was available. And so far to date, over 850 of those students are also enrolled in summer semester. So after one semester, what have we learned about our GRCC frontliners? When we compare them to our other students, the non-frontliner students who are enrolled in winter semester, here's what we see about our frontliner eligible students. Over 67% are female. 50% are older than the age of 25. They're slightly more diverse in terms of race and ethnicity. They have a higher percentage of being a new student or an occasional or even a transfer student. And while they're interested in a wide variety of academic programs, the focus seems to be on healthcare programs and business associate degrees. So that's part of this new initiative from the state to help reach the goal of 60 by 30. There's another program called the Michigan Reconnect, and I give a summary of that on the next slide. So the Futures for Frontliners then was kind of the leading edge. So on the Reconnect program, what we find out about Reconnect. So again, Futures for Frontliners was kind of that pilot program. And then earlier this calendar year, the state rolled out Reconnect, which is a more expansive view of the Futures for Frontliners. Reconnect is also a last dollar scholarship program for community college students. It covers resident tuition rate and mandatory fees. And its focus, though, is on Michiganders who are 25 years old or older who do not yet have a college degree. Since February 1st, when the state rolled out the application, over 65,000 people have applied across the entire state. 4,800 of those applied with the intent to attend GRCC. 96% of those students met the eligibility requirements of the state. Now, summer is the first semester that the Reconnect is available to students, and so far to date, more than 300 of the Reconnect recipients are enrolled in our summer semester. So Futures for Frontliners and Reconnect are two big initiatives within the state of Michigan to reach our goal of 60 by 30. So how does that change our service model in terms of how we serve students? And we'll provide a summary of that on the next slide. We're looking more at a success-focused student service model. So to ensure that all of our students, but including the Futures for Frontliners and Reconnect recipients, are successful, we need to be more responsive to their needs and address their needs, find out what they are ahead of time so that we can put in services in place to help them be successful. So with these two programs, Frontliners and Reconnect, we're already seeing a shift in enrollment towards more adult learners, most of whom have little or no prior college experience. They will need personalized and customized support services. From career development to advising to FAFSA assistance, tutoring, and more, nearly 32% of the frontliners have shared that they need multiple support services in order to be successful at GRCC. We will need to continue to offer multiple course modalities to fit their schedule and learning styles. While there's a strong interest in online courses, nearly 60% of the frontliner students expressed an interest in trying multiple modalities for learning. And they've also expressed a strong interest in evening and even in weekend options for courses. And as Tina mentioned earlier, we have already in student services begun to expand our student service offering to include more evening and Saturday hours to be accessible to students. And so finally, as these students juggle their work, home, and family life balance, and then add in education, we can anticipate that the trends towards part-time enrollment will continue. And so just as GRCC has done in the past, we're going to continue to come alongside our students to do what we can to help them be successful. So thank you for this opportunity to bring up these programs and give you a highlight of what these programs are doing for our students and how we can help them. And I will hand it back over to Tina.
I'm muted there. Thank you, David and Lina. This last piece of the next slide here is just a real brief glimpse of what's happening on the first floor of RJF that we're very, very excited about. And as was mentioned, we are reimagining the student experience. I'll tell you just a quick story out at a retail store this last week. I think we all know there's a lot of help wanted signs out there. People, our communities looking for workers. As I was checking out, one of their strategies was to ask everyone that bought something if they needed a job. And so they asked me if I was interested in working there. And, you know, it kind of caught me. I thought, well, sort of, I guess. But what it gave me the opportunity to do was to talk about where I did work. And I started talking about working at GRCC. And it was interesting because as soon as I stepped away, one of the employees came over to me and said, can you tell me about that free community college? I mean, what an excellent opportunity just by mentioning GRCC. And I'll be honest, it was kind of the trifecta win, because it was this particular individual qualified for Reconnect, her husband qualified, and she had a high school son, all interested in GRCC that we could get connected. I know all of you are incredible ambassadors for GRCC. It's about looking at our community and how do we keep that voice there. So as we build towards our summer and fall enrollments, we need everybody's help to be a part of being out there in the community and talking about the great things we have to offer, especially this new exposure of free tuition through the state. These are amazing, and these are game changers of changings for our state. So we're very, very, very excited about that. So again, this is a great segue, because as we're renovating and the dust is flying on the first floor, the person that's been real instrumental in helping that all happen has been Dr. Mullins in terms of raising money to make that all make a go. So I'm going to turn this over, or I turn it back to you, Bill. I know you've been instrumental too. So turning back to you.
That's fine, Tina. I probably had a conversation here and there, but thank you for that, Tina. And Lina and David, appreciate you guys. Interesting data. And Tina, to your point, big thank you to you and your team, Tina. You can hand it off as far as kudos to Kathy and Foundation and others, but you and your team, Tina, you do so well in taking care of our students. And I thank you for that. And Lina, you and your folks, when you start looking at those numbers as far as the pantry and all the efforts around student life, you know, the thing that Lina doesn't mention when she talks about all those things, and that's a lot of what she and her folks have been doing, she also has to continue to do the other part of her day job, which is the student life and conduct, and helping our student organizations and helping with student conduct processes and all those things. And so we're grateful to you, Lina, for the good work that you do. Sandy Gregory being a part of that team and others, we're grateful for that. And David, again, I'm not sure, David, if you've been at GRCC long enough out of pandemic days for us to truly say how much we welcome you to the team. It seems like right after you came, that's when we were, it was welcome to campus, now go home with the shutdown. So David, big thanks to you and our financial aid team, because that's such an important office for our campus. And for many students that do not know what the financial picture is of how to get to college and to finish college financially, it is imperative that our financial aid office be a strong catalyst and stand in the gap as advocates for our students. So thank you for that. One thing David mentioned, friends, is with Futures for Frontliners and the Michigan Reconnect, both David and Tina mentioning those. And one of the things about this coming summer and really getting into fall, and really when you talk about summer, because as David mentioned, this summer is when we should start seeing some of the Reconnect students hit campus, some virtually, some in person. So as of this summer, GRCC will have the Futures for Frontliners, the Reconnect, the Grand Rapids Promise Zone, and then, as I remind people, the one avenue we've had for decades, which is the Pell Grant. All four of those are avenues for helping students access college. And for students who fit the criteria of Futures for Frontliners, we have some of those right here already that are taking full advantage of it. And that's what it's for. Reconnect will be the same way. That's an even larger number of folks who will be eligible for that. The Promise Zone continues to roll. I think, Tina, I think we're at about 300 going into the summer that we're looking at. I honestly believe that through the summer, getting into fall, that Promise Zone number will go up even more. We have a rock star coordinator in Evan Macklin steering that work. And I think, no pressure, by the way, Evan. But I think that work will continue to expand and grow as far as the Promise Zone is concerned. And as we said before, students who are in this community that are eligible for a full Pell Grant, those students can be they can come to GRCC as a full-time student, and that Pell Grant will pay for all their education and have money left over, so that they can buy books, so that they can buy bus passes, so that they can have some money to help them be successful here. And so I will tell you that between Tina's team and Dave Murray from a marketing and communications perspective, Eric Mullen, all our folks, it's time to get, it's all hands on deck and running after and getting some of these students who, not only these students, class of 2021, but friends, we have a lot of class of 2020 that still have not entered into college, that are still sitting on sidelines. And there has to be this focus, and the focus is going to be statewide, but it's going to have to be on us as well here locally, that we are paying close attention to grabbing those students who've been out of this game for a while as things start to ramp back up going into fall and bit into summer. We've got to be able to get those students back in school. And I'm appreciative to all those who are chomping at the bit to get this word out about the community's college and let folks know what the opportunities are. And so that's good work that'll happen here in the next several weeks for summer and over the next several months for fall. I'd say not only stay tuned, but also just be aware. I think some of our best recruiters, aside from the ones who get paid to do it in Tina's shop, some of the best recruiters I'm staring at you right now in this camera. Our GRCC family, you are the best recruiters, because when people see GRCC on your shirt, on your pin, on your mask, they tend to ask the question. I can't tell you how many times people will ask me. It's always a fun question to ask and to answer when they say, "Oh, you work at GRCC. What do you do?" And sometimes I have to really think about, wow, what? But you are the best recruiters for this institution, and so continue to tell that story and continue to tell students, look, grcc.edu, and connect them to our professionals who are ready to say, let's get this thing going. There's awesome opportunity. And I'm so sorry, Kathy, because I'm taking your time. I'm starting to get on. My soapbox is way too big right now. I want Kathy Mullins, Dr. Mullins, to share a bit about the foundation and some things that are going on and have happened and continue to happen as far as this idea of how the foundation supports our students. So Dr. Mullins, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pink. We also have Challenge Scholars students coming on campus too. So we have a lot of students that represent all different age groups coming to campus. And from a foundation perspective, there's still a lot of students on campus who don't qualify for any of those programs that we've talked about, because it does sound like there's a program for everybody, but there really isn't. So this afternoon, I'm very excited to share the student support initiatives that the College Advancement Team has been working on since COVID began. And I do just want to reiterate what Tina said. The College Advancement Team couldn't do it without collaborating with all of you. Every time we make a call and ask for help, people are right there to do that. So I just want to say thank you for that. before we get started. So talking about the college advancement team, I'll start with the foundation today. Oh, I better share my screen. Let's see if it works. It worked. All right. So today, let's talk about the foundation and what's been happening since COVID with the foundation. But first, let's go back to February of 2020. It seems like it was a long time ago in a land far, far away where we didn't ever talk about COVID. We hadn't used the term pandemic, and the foundation was actually celebrating because we had just finished out the most successful capital campaign that the college has seen. Talk about great timing, because it wasn't even a month later that pandemic came and everything shut down, and that had we been in the midst of a campaign, that would have shut down that campaign. So it did not. So we exceeded our campaign goal, but we also exceeded the goal for the scholarships that we wanted to raise for our students, which was perfect timing for what we were about to see. Now, pandemic, March of 2020. So students were already halfway through their winter semester, and we've been working through the scholarship awarding process. In the fall, we had awarded 944 students with scholarships. $1.2 million in scholarships were offered, and we dispersed, as of today, $967,431. Now, difference between dispersed and offered means dispersed is what students have actually cashed in on today. Offered is the amount, the difference in that is the amount there where students just didn't come to GRCC, or they came, instead of going full-time, they came part-time. So now there's leftover dollars to re-award. We've been consistently doing that since the start of fall semester, and we still find ourselves with a little over $75,000 to re-award. So for the first time ever, we will be awarding scholarships to students during the summer semester, which is great news for our students. It's great news for individuals who are looking to get started again, or individuals who are looking to finish up, because in the past, scholarship dollars would not have been awarded across the board during the summer semester. The goal with doing that is we want to make sure that every penny that we have in the scholarship that's available for to be awarded is put in the hands of our students where it's needed the most. Now, the great news around all of the programs that are out there, and then the fact that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yesterday, all of the vaccinations were released. Anybody 16 and older can get a vaccine. And I think people are ready to get back into things. And the scholarship application process would say that that's absolutely true. We had 2,067 students apply for scholarships as of the March 26th priority deadline. That is up 20.7% from last academic year for scholarships applications. That is great news for the college and for students, because we did have the capital campaign, we do see that increase. What I would say based on this, as ambassadors, as you're working with students or individuals that are interested in attending GRCC, just because the priority deadline has passed does not mean students can't apply for scholarships. We don't close our scholarship application at GRCC. It's open all year long, so people can apply at any time. And as you see, we have $75,000 left that we're awarding right now for summer. So if a student were to apply, it's possible they could get a scholarship. So if they're at any time during the year, if you talk to a student and there is a financial barrier, please send them to the financial aid website, have them fill out the scholarship application. It's one application for all funds available, and there's always an opportunity there. So send students that way, because again, we want every dollar we have available. We want students to be able to take advantage of that. So outside of the scholarship itself, the scholarship recipient workshops that are conducted through the foundation are one of the most tangible student support efforts that we do. The scholarship recipient workshops, for those who've been here for a while, They came out of an HLC project called Street to Completion, and then it went into our strategic plan as a college action project. It was successful, and now it's incorporated into the work that we do on a daily basis in the foundation. And scholarship recipient workshops are designed to connect students to the resources we have on campus and make sure that they have the knowledge necessary to access those services. We know from SESI data from way back when that community college students are most successful when someone on campus knows their name. So our scholarship recipient workshops, up till the time everything shut down, were face-to-face. And they're designed intentionally that way. We want students to see the foundation. We want to connect them with individuals, with real people here on campus. And we connect them with financial aid people and some of our counselors and our TRIO programs and things like that, so that students have someone they can go to if they have a question. Because we have known in the past that if students leave campus without getting a question answered, sometimes they never return. So we want to make sure that they have that connection. The scholarship recipient workshop also creates the future alumni connection. We want students to connect with the college in a way that they will stay connected forever. And this happens to help with that. We also reinforce that relationship between the scholarship recipient and the donor. And this truly does help students in the fact that now, in some cases, they end up with a mentor. They end up with a lifelong relationship with the donor. They're also encouraged by what the donor did to help them get through college, that they will give back in the future. And that's just all great things to help with that student success as we continue through from here to eternity, hopefully. So what happened when the pandemic hit? When the pandemic hit, we went virtual with our scholarship recipient workshops, and we removed the mandatory requirement. We did that because we knew students were overwhelmed. They were overwhelmed with everything going on in their lives, and we didn't want to put one more barrier in place. The way scholarship recipients workshops operate is students have to attend, and once they attend, then their scholarship is released to their account. In this instance, for 2019 and 2020, we removed that mandatory requirement and we did everything virtually. And we still had students participate, and it worked out well virtually. But face-to-face and in-person is definitely the preference for our team as well as the students. So in 2021, we are going back to in-person mandatory workshops. And again, we're doing it safely. Yesterday, with the vaccines released, more people will be vaccinated. We'll absolutely do social distancing and the masks and all of that. So we're doing it safely, but we want to continue to create that connection with the students. And for those who aren't comfortable doing it face-to-face, we will have a virtual. But I wanted to share with you specifically why scholarships truly make a difference. Not only are we removing barriers so that students can get here, but when you look at scholarship recipients versus students who do not receive a scholarship, and you look at success in terms of transfer, degree completion, or persistence, scholarship recipients persist, transfer, and complete at a rate of 85%. Students that do not receive any kind of a scholarship transfer, complete, or persist at 61%. Scholarships make a difference. Students are connected. Students feel like someone is there helping them, and it really does make a tremendous difference. This is data that we've been tracking consistently since we were doing the HLC program, and this percentage for scholarship recipients has increased, whereas students not receiving scholarships has really always been 61, 62% for as long as we've been tracking this. Then if you look at the data in this way, it's very interesting to see that students that graduated from GRCC and didn't transfer, or students that graduated from GRCC and did transfer, so the blue and the red, students are doing that at a greater rate in the scholarship recipient category, much greater rate than they are in students not receiving scholarships. And then in turn, at the top of that scale, you look at the teal color, left education. 15% of scholarship recipients leave education and they're lost. We don't know where they went, but 39% compared to 39% for those not receiving scholarships. So scholarships definitely impact the persistence, completion, and success data for our students. This data is great to share with students so they understand that, again, these are tools that are helping you and you will be successful. Look at what the rates are. There's success here, proven success. And then also just to have conversations with our donors around, this is why your donation to GRCC makes a difference. As Lina spoke about earlier, the foundation also helps with the Student Emergency Fund area and Student Emergency Loan Program. And then we have President Pink's Investiture Fund, which supports the food pantry. The Student Emergency Loan Program was started by President Ender. And that's a program that's really kind of a bridge program where we help students between when they're awarded their financial aid, but they don't get their financial aid until they've been in class for a little bit and things moved over. So there's this little gap that they need help with. And that's what mostly students use the Student Emergency Loan Program for. So then as soon as they get their financial aid back, then they pay the loan and it's all good. But that is a program that students do take advantage of. And that is a fund that's pretty big in the foundation. President Pink's Investiture Fund. The awesome thing about this, and we in the foundation are the only ones that know this, but President Pink does a ton of speaking and he will go all over the country and speak. And at some of those speaking engagements, they will offer stipends. He never takes a stipend, but says, instead, write a check to the GRCC Foundation and have it designated for the Investiture Fund, President Pink's Investiture Fund for the food pantry support. So these two funds are examples of how at the very top level of leadership, our presidents are taking steps to make sure that we're removing barriers for our students too. So I just wanted to make sure that that's something that people know because it's a pretty cool thing. And I'm not sure it happens at every institution. And finally, what we did realize for sure during this pandemic is that our students are our students no matter when they were our students. So alumni have needed our support and have needed a helping hand, if you will, during this pandemic as much as our students have. And that in terms of alumni-owned businesses, plenty of those businesses are small businesses or they're impacted by the hospitality industry. And so the pandemic's been hard for them. So to help alumni during this time, we have created an alumni-owned business webpage, and we promote alumni-owned businesses on our webpage. We also, through our alumni newsletter, we promote alumni-owned businesses to all the alum in the community that are part of that group. And it's been very helpful. Our alums are extremely happy that we're helping them in that way. And I also, whenever we do an event, I make sure that there's some aspect of the event that incorporates an alumni-owned business, and other departments on campus are doing that as well. So that's a really nice thing that's happened as a result and helped. And then finally, the Alumni Scholarship Fund, that's a fund that alumni donate to that is used for children of GRJC, GRCC alums. So that's a scholarship that individuals can take advantage of there. The foundation team has really been doing a ton of work, and it's work that I'm very proud of because there is a student focus to everything that we do. And my team is a great team, and they've accomplished a ton during a time in our community that's been very difficult and historic. So I just want to say thank you to Aaron, Mary, Jared, Kristen, and Jenna. Lots of great work, and you're an awesome team. Now our grants department. Our grants department, in addition to the millions of dollars that they're writing grants for every day as part of their normal day-to-day work, pandemic hit and they paused. And in the midst of all of that, grant writing paused and made sure that they were writing grants that would help with immediate needs for students during this pandemic. And with the help of the grant department in collaboration with the various departments, a grant was started immediately when pandemic hit and applied for and received to start that grocery and food distribution where the food pantry is drive-through. Students are coming down the hill and everybody's loading groceries into their car. That $10,000 grant was a huge boost to get that program started. And then what that did and all of the publicity that we got out of that, then at the end now, Kent County in partnership with United Way, we have a almost $50,000 grant that allowed us to continue that through the end of 2020. But we've also had grants that help with hotspots for students and grants that help with childcare credits to make childcare more affordable for families as they try to go back to school. And these are all barriers. They're all direct and immediate funds that help students at a time when they needed it the most. And so I'm just really proud of that work. And what's amazing to me is that all of this work is being accomplished in a department of 2 people. And so I just want to say thank you so much to Lisa Dotke and Kim Squires. You're an awesome grants team who collaborates with departments across campus to get this work done. And I'm really proud of all that they do. And it never fails to amaze me when I send something and just send it to say, you know, if you have time, and it doesn't matter if you have time or not, they make time. And these are the grants that if you have time, this would really help our students right now. They took care of that immediately. So we have a new website. Pandemic came at a time when we were just beginning this web redesign project. And at first, I have to say, I was pretty worried about how in the world are we going to get this work done now? I mean, everybody's working virtually, remotely. This is a team of 3 people, again, doing this work. And how are they going to do that if they aren't in the same building all the time? But Lee Jajuga and her team stepped up, and holy smokes, a newly redesigned website was launched for the first time in 10 years this past January. Now it gets even better because it's a cool looking website and all of that. But when you start looking at the data around what has happened as a result of this website, the pandemic truly helped the team focus on the needs of the students, especially in a virtual environment. So when I would meet with Lee weekly and we'd talk through what's happening, every week she was telling me, I've just been going through pages and making sure that students they can access it. Does it make sense with virtual? Does it? And so she's connecting all these dots, and this data is pretty impressive. So if you look at January through March in 2020 versus January through March in 2021, look at the grcc.edu/apply page. Last year, January through March, 15,953 people went to this page. This year, in 3 months' time, 30,935 people went to the apply page. That's 90.5% increase in traffic on that one page. Then, even cooler than that, I mean, it's staggering. If you look at the programs page, 2020, 423 clicks to the programs page. 2021, 52,708. 12,360% increase. I'm not a math person. I didn't even know percentages went that high. This is from the perspective of removing barriers. This is huge for our students because now there's no question about, okay, I want to look at this program or I want to look at this program. What's the difference? They don't have to hunt and pack and find, like where's Waldo on our website. They literally can go and it's an instant, immediate, they know where they're going. So that's a very cool thing. And then for anybody who knows, if you haven't updated your website in 10 years, there's going to be some accessibility issues, and a lot of accessibility issues that you might not even know about until it's too late. And so accessibility has always been something that Lee and her team have focused on, especially with this redesign, especially with the pandemic, and understanding the importance of making sure that every student who can and needs to access our website can do that easily. The education industry standard score for accessibility is 77. So that's, if your score is at 77, your industry average, you're fine. GRCC's accessibility site improve score, 96.3 out of 100. That is amazing from the perspective of it keeps us in compliance with everything we need to stay in compliance, but even more importantly, it makes sure that students who have disabilities or need something different to review our site, they have that, and they're able to navigate the site, and it's no longer a hurdle for anyone. So again, we're removing barriers for students and helping with that student support there. Top 5 web pages. This one is very interesting. When you look at the old site, January through March, again, you're looking at 2020 and 2021. 2020, our homepage, our online center, how do I get my financial aid refund, a rater card, and academic departments. 2021, our homepage, C programs, apply, my GRCC, and the academic calendar. We are actually building, and we have this data that says this website's doing what we want it to do. It's pushing students to where they need to be so that it's the most valuable, actionable recruitment and retention pages. Those pages listed there, that's where we want students to spend their time, because that's where we know when they go there, they get the assistance they need to either enroll or persist and retain in their program. So that's an amazing thing. Again, the website redesign supports our students in their quest to enroll and complete at GRCC, and it couldn't have been accomplished without those 3 team members, Lee, Patrick, and Beth. And it's what they've accomplished in that short time frame on the pandemic is pretty phenomenal. And the product that we have and that we're all working with, I'm very proud of this website, and I'm very proud of that team, and the fact that we now have a very tangible thing, very tangible website that will really help students and do what we need as a college to do as far as bringing more students onto campus. Oops. So, okay, it looks like there's a page missing here. So I'm just going to talk through my notes. Not sure how that happened. So communications department. Communications for GRCC's changed significantly over the last few years. And with the pandemic, that has gotten even more complex, that work has. So in addition to branding, the press releases, the marketing, and the telling the GRCC story, this team has been laser focused on how to support our students. And they know the best way to do that is through social media. So they've really expanded social media campaigns in a way that we have icons, and they responding to the pandemic, and then how people can continue in education. So these social media campaigns, our students are social, and that is really how we are communicating with them. But through these campaigns, we're able to communicate that GRCC is a safe place to be, that if you took a gap year off, it's okay. Now's the time to come back. Let's fill that gap. If you're not sure what to do, we're here for you. Here's a link to how you can connect with some of these awesome people that work here. So that work that communications has done has been very successful in making sure that, again, students are, barriers are being removed, students are feeling comfortable, they're feeling connected, and really want to be part and come back to GRCC. But in addition to that, not many people know that there's a call center that is part of communications. When the pandemic hit, we collaborated with the admissions area and created a universal call center, if you will. But the awesome thing about this call center is we have these amazing colleagues that are answering these students' phone calls, and students needed to talk to someone. They needed to hear from someone. So much so that there were days our call center took more than 2,000 calls in a day. And these individuals are working from home. They're taking they're not sitting here on campus doing at this time, we couldn't do that. So it's from that perspective. And you think about the fact that, like Tina said, we never shut down. And the fact that we have across this campus individuals who are doing that work is it's what makes GRCC a great place. And it's why we need to work even harder to make sure that these students who did take the break or who aren't feeling comfortable coming back, we need to work really hard to let them know this is the place for them. But this communications team has done some phenomenal things with our branding even before the pandemic. But as a result and throughout the pandemic, they've really stepped up to support our students. And again, I want to thank that team for their work. Dave, Melinda, L, Magda, Alyssa, Lori, Lisa, and Ben, just an awesome team. And I'm really thankful to be working with them. And then finally, just thanks to all of you. We can't do what we do without you. And I appreciate you very much. And know that if you have any questions, all you have to do is call me. Thanks.
And yes, Dr. Mullins, I know if I have any questions, I definitely call, probably get tired of me calling, or many times it's just a text of what is, explain to me. And I've got to tell you, you and your team do an absolutely wonderful job in servicing our students, but servicing our alumni as well in our community. I love the idea of the alumni connection. So making sure our alumni have a place here with the college where they can post information, whether it be jobs, whether it be here's my business, and give folks opportunities to know who those alumni are and what those businesses are, and how we can support them. So that's good information. And with all your areas that you've covered today, from communications, Dave Murray and his team, grant office, just the funds that have been brought in by our grants office is, and as you said, funds that are really focused on helping students. And so thank you for your leadership in that, Dr. Mullins, and thank you to your team for all the things that they do on behalf of students. I will also say it was brought to my attention a second ago as I'm sitting here talking about David DeBoer and the good work that he's been doing. I understand this is your 1-year anniversary today. So when I say that you came, when I say that you came in the midst of the pandemic, you truly came in the midst of the pandemic. So congratulations on reaching that 1-year anniversary in the midst of a pandemic. And at some point, David, I cannot wait for you to experience GRCC on a basis where we're all spending our days on campus in person and acting and interacting with each other and our faculty, staff, and our students. That'll be good. Good to look forward to that. But until then, congratulations on that 1-year anniversary. That's awesome. Well, I want to also mention real quickly, friends, that as I've been saying in updates in Pink Ink, commencement's coming. Once we get to tomorrow, I'll be saying later on this month, commencement. Amazing to think about it. But April 30th and May 1st, Friday and Saturday, is what we have focused right now as far as commencement is concerned. Right now, are aiming to have 4 in-person ceremonies. And we always, as I say to people, we leave an asterisk by that just in case things happen that cause us to have to regroup and replan, plan other things. But right now, we're all systems go. I think our commencement committee that is continues to work hard on not only the planning of that event, but to also try to do it in a way that's going to be as safe as possible in however we can make that happen. So thanks to that committee, and we'll have more and more information in the next few weeks in details. And I think Lina mentioned it earlier, but it was really cool yesterday here in admin building. It was really nice to step outside the front door and just see a line of cars in this parking lot because of GradFest. And to go out and spend some time standing out there talking and seeing students drive through and get their goods as far as graduation is concerned, that was really fun to see that. And I tell you, it was just a steady stream of cars coming through. Big thanks to all of you who volunteered to help out with that effort. Can't pull something off like that, a drive-through GradFest. You can't pull that off with just 1 or 2 people. It's how this college always answers the call. And so thank you to all of you who helped out with that effort. Well, I've taken enough of your time this afternoon, friends. Here in the coming weeks, different activities going on virtually. Some we can figure out how to do in some ways in person as we start moving toward the end of this winter semester, toward all the various events that we are used to having, from different pinning ceremonies to our employee appreciation event and all those things that wrap around this time of year. This is an exciting time of year, and just because we're in a pandemic should not take away the excitement, because we have students who are finishing, and so that in itself causes excitement, and it causes us to make sure that we celebrate right along with them. So looking forward to that. Just because we're shutting down a coffee and conversation doesn't mean you can't still email questions about anything you heard today or just other things. You can always fire me an email. Just because we end a coffee and conversation doesn't mean that the conversation ends. So thank you so much. And if you are watching this, having not able to see it live, but seeing it as a video recording, you too, just because you're seeing it a few hours or days later, please let me know if you have anything that you have a question about or need to share. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all that you do for this institution, because when you do it for this institution, when you do whatever you do for the community college, you indeed do it for the community. Thank you for your work.